He actually came to one of these meetings that we had up here. Come out eating. Remember when he came up here when he was part of it?
All righty. I hereby call to order this meeting of the Mayor and Board of Commissioners. May I please have a roll call?
Commissioner Levingood.
Here.
Commissioner Richardson.
Here.
Commissioner Mosier.
Here.
Commissioner Jinks.
Here.
Commissioner Stutz.
Here.
Okay, thank you. There is no one registered for public comment this evening. So in our called meeting agenda, our first item is the retail recruiting proposal. Our committee, made up of John Campbell, Sam Mosier, Haley Isbell, and Jessica, reviewed the only proposal received, which was from Retail Strategies. So Jessica, can you recap the committee's recommendation before we take action?
Sure. We had a presentation on this in our July strategic planning workshop. Lacey Beasley's firm, Retail Strategies, is who came to that workshop. She is also the only person that submitted a proposal on this. It is $50,000 a year. We can sign a contract between 1 year and 3 years. The contract will be structured as a 3-year contract, but you have the option at the end of each year to terminate that contract. Probably the highlights on this that I want to go over. Her copy of her proposal is in your packet, and also a copy of the contract. John Cleveland actually had a couple of amendments to the contract. One of them was a typo, one of them was a formatting issue, and the other one was he wanted to add a clause that if there was any legislation or where we had to go battle it out, that we would do it with a jury trial or not a jury trial.
If there's any litigation at all, it'd have to be in Monroe County without a jury.
Yeah, so he wants to add that clause to the contract, which we will put in and send back to them. Basically, if we want to go ahead with this tonight, we're asking for authorization for me to sign the contract once John Cleveland has it the way he wants it and it's been approved by both sides. Really what we need to kind of discuss from the committee recommendations is why we think this is important. So we feel like we do a pretty strong job of recruiting in and building entrepreneurs for small businesses. You can look at the success of the Main Street program downtown, things like that. What we do here is that we have some pretty major commercially zoned lots. The property next to Walmart, the property at the interstate corridor, that are currently vacant or perhaps underutilized, so they're not being used for their highest and best good. And in those instances, we think we could use some assistance from a recruiting firm. So our committee met, we reviewed the proposal, we worked through a few questions. We also made some suggestions about some places we would like to see tackled first on the list. Some of the deliverables that the firm will give is listed out at the end of their proposal. They redo the gap analysis, which is currently on our website, but it's from 2019, so quite a bit of that data has changed. So it will be updated. We get the deliverables that we can actually just upload to the website so that when firms are looking, if you have a retail chain that's looking, whether that's a hotel or a retailer or a big box store, whatever it might be, they're looking for those demographics. So they will provide, they'll do the study, it'll have traffic counts included, it'll have population, it'll have daytime population, it'll have a market guide, it'll have our trade area, but they'll do an analysis of what we're missing, where people are going somewhere else to buy things. Right now in Sweetwater, about $216 million a year, people that live in the 37874 zip code are traveling to a different zip code to purchase that product. So that's a lot of retail leakage. So we feel like we can capture some of that back. And we're making the recommendation that we do sign with Retail Strategies. We have used them once before on a grant basis. For this particular contract, I had initially said let's take some of that money out of the Industrial Development Fund, which there will be, even if we authorize some of the stuff that we're doing in a joint resolution that's next on the agenda. We still have a little bit of money from interest and things like that we could take part of that out of the Industrial Development Fund, but it is going to require a budget amendment because this is not something that we talked about before the budget or that we had decided to do before the budget. So it's something that we're going to have to figure out if we decide to hire them. Where do we want to take that from? I definitely think it's an economic development project. Sam, I'll let you talk a little bit about a couple of the other avenues that you were thinking of for possible places, and then anything you want to add as far as the committee standpoint about that evaluation.
So a couple of the areas that I was asking Jessica about is we've got the tourism fund, we've got some planning engineering money in our department, and then as far as an investment in our city and in recruiting, the thing that we discussed in our meeting is the information that we have is 6 years old, and that it was last done in 2019. So just think about in the last 6 years, the growth that we have had in the city was brought on largely by the data that this firm gave us. So what we are wanting to do is revisit, update, and go after even more retail, especially on the leakage points that you got that up, that we don't have. And we're not trying to compete. What we want to do is provide these services, bring in new establishments that will enhance our city even more. And that's what this company will do, can do for us in their recruitment strategies. Was it Farmers Furniture?
Mm-hmm.
That was a direct find from them. So for with Farmers, they were in search for, was it Fred's?
Fred's stores.
When Fred's moved out, Farmers moved in, they were the ones that knew about that connection. So it's information like that that is so valuable to us trying to grow our sales tax. So I think it's just based on the track record in the past, it's another good investment. You take that amount, spread it over 6 years, and it's a no-brainer. So, and we've got multiple areas that it can be pulled from.
That's the one thing we do have that some of the other areas around don't have is inventory. There is some vacant land that's already commercially zoned along Highway 68, along Highway 322, along Murray's Chapel Road near the interstate. So I do think we have some real potential properties right now that people are already calling about and asking about, but this would give us just a little bit more control over what exactly landed there and who we were recruiting. If you look through their proposal, they do, so this is an example that's on our website now of the last market guide they did for us and kind of some of the research that goes into it. So in addition to that, they also contact at least 30 retailers that they feel like fit our demographics or really close to fit our demographics. Because Sweetwater has a population of 6,000 people, but our daytime population is 35,000. So when they're recruiting that business, they may have a business model that says they are not going to come anywhere in a population of less than 15,000 or 20,000. Well, that's where this data comes in handy because you can say where our daytime population is 35,000. So having accurate numbers on that, and they use Placer AI just like we do, but they also use traffic counts. They use lots of different data to put that together. And again, the other thing that they put in here that they will do is represent us at the International Shopping Center convention every year, which is where a lot of big box retailers are present. They might hear about us the first time there. We're not being represented there at all right now. So having the firm represent us there, I think, would be a good step. They also, they come on site one time every year during the contract and look at different properties, but then they also are available by call as many times a year as we want to use them. So if we had a specific property that we were saying, okay, Hepperly Auto just closed and we have this available property at the interstate, it's already C5, this is the information on it, they would go look at their resources to figure out who would be a good fit for that. So we can call them every time we have something like that develop also. So do you all have any questions? The committee is recommending that you select this consultant that submitted a proposal and sign a contract with them.
Yeah, I have some questions. I really liked Lacey when she came here and she did her presentation. I thought she was very personable, and she obviously knows how to do her job well. The only concern I have is just kind of timing. I feel like we have so much on our plate right now that this is one thing that we could easily push off for a year or two and still be okay. I mean, we're talking about the high school, we're talking about TMG, we're talking about I-75. We have a lot going on right now. I'm just not sure that now is the time to be bringing in a consultant for retail to put more on Sweetwater. We really don't know how much we're going to change even within the next year or two with just the differences that we are going to probably make this year by this board. And so I love the concept of it, but I also feel like it's for towns that are more desperate than we are. I think Sweetwater's doing really well. Business-wise, yeah, we don't have the big businesses, but we take care of our small businesses very well, I think. And so I'm just wondering what you guys think about the timing of it.
The one thing for me in the timing is when when we have a community which is growing and we have a community in which we're wanting to accomplish all of these things, sales tax and income to our city is a driving factor. This company is actually recruiting other companies that is going to increase that tax base. So I see it as a investment on the front end that's going to pay dividends on the back end that will help us accomplish all these things that we are taking on. So that's my approach and direction.
All right, and remind me, Jessica, you said if the stuff at I-75 goes through, what was the projected increase of sales tax at the city?
Well, actually, the I-75 project won't probably generate sales tax. It'll be mostly property tax revenue that comes off that. They're, like Red Stag does generate some sales tax for us because they move their point of sale there, but typically industry, it's more that we're getting property tax off that. So I guess once, Tom can go into these numbers a little better, but once it's fully built out with all 8 buildings, we will be getting 47% of the property taxes, and McMinn County would be getting 53%. And I can't remember exactly what those numbers are, but it's definitely, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in property taxes.
Plus local jobs too.
Yeah, and jobs.
Bringing that.
I think this right here is going to target the things that we kind of want, like some of the things, some of our holes in our retail holes, and so that's what I see it as a benefit, is that it's going to target some of the things that we don't have that we maybe could get. Just we don't have the representation to go out and to go fish for those and you know, put ourselves out in front of those people to say, hey, you know, we have space here and we would like you to come. You know, I don't feel like we have anybody marketing for us, and we do it. I mean, Sweetwater does a very good job, but I think there's some holes that I think this might be able to fill that could really boost our sales tax.
I will say, I don't think anyone on our current staff has, we all have the desire, but none of us have the contacts or the ability or the time to be able to do this marketing to big retail. You know, like, for example, KFC is not coming. I don't know if John was going to tell that in his department head report or not, but sorry, John, if I stole your glory. I'll save you from getting the tomatoes thrown at you. Like, can I have a collective sigh, everyone? Oh. So, but that lot is already on Highway 68. It's fully ready. The utilities have already been moved to where it's prepped and ready for a restaurant site pad. I don't know who to call at Zaxby's to get them to come here. Now, if you want me to tell you that there's an empty building in downtown Sweetwater that we have 1,200 square feet, we can post that on Facebook all day long and have it filled within a day and have a waiting list on it. But when it comes to big box retailers, I don't have the contacts. If you're not doing that full time, you're not going to be the person that can know what to do there. So that's why I think we need the retail recruiting firm. I feel very confident that we can't do this on our own. So I think we do need the help in hiring someone to do it. Also, the quality of companies we have calling right now, some of them are things that we don't want to be in Sweetwater. So my worry is actually a little bit the opposite. I worry that maybe we've missed the boat on this just a little bit and that we're going to end up with something at our interstate exit that we do not want. So to me, it's more about a protection kind of thing. I do agree we have a lot going on right now. And I'm sure as a street commissioner, one of your concerns is probably how much traffic is this going to put on to the roads. So I definitely think that's a legitimate concern. I am excited that the industrial development property is right there at the interstate. So I doubt, you know, a lot of that traffic is going to be on the interstate. We're not going to have a ton of those tractor trailers driving into town and onto Highway 11. Here's what I heard a lot in the last 2 elections. That we do a great job with downtown, but what do we do on the other corridors of Sweetwater? So that's kind of my concern, is if there's a way that we can hire this firm to help take what we do downtown and expand it to where there's more economic development along I-75 and 68 and all those areas, how can we increase that tax base, keep our property taxes low, and fund things through sales tax instead of property tax all the time? But we're still real grateful for your property tax, Tom.
Every little bit.
That's right.
I think 1 or 2 hits on something like this is going to pay for the investment.
And with the availability and the property that we have,
So Walmart is your big dog. Walmart is the retailer that, if you get that in a small town, it totally changes what your budget is. And it did. I'm not allowed to say how much it did, but you're talking about 10 job positions is what Walmart pays for every year in the city of Sweetwater. So even if you got a Zaxby's or something to replace the KFC that was a great sales tax person, you're still not making the impact that Walmart did. But Rural King became a top 10 or top 15 business for sales tax. The Weigels at the interstate, just having Dollar General closed on Highway 11, you would think everybody would just go to the other Dollar General. Our sales tax is down every month. It's not down, it's up overall, but we saw that decrease just when Dollar General shut its doors. So every retail outlet that you have certainly does provide a significant sales tax. Even if it's another Dollar General, it still provides that bump in sales tax. Now, is it going to put more traffic on the road? Possibly. Maybe people come here to shop for more things, but if you're filling in those gaps that are already existing on your major roads, your state highways, your Highway 68s and things like that, we do have quite a few vacancies on Murray's Chapel, though, which is not a state highway. So that is probably something we would have to look at eventually, is upgrading Murray's Chapel Road, if there was, a lot of traffic development on that. But
Any more questions? So
I
I'll.
move to approve.
Okay, well, you took the words out of my mouth. Do I have a
Second.
second? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Joanna, just for clarification, did you say aye or nay? Which one are you?
Nay.
You're voting
Nay.
against. Okay, thank you.
And let me go, I apologize. Welcome to all of our visitors. So, some of my favorite Sweetwater citizens in the building tonight, all in one place. So welcome. And we are so glad to have you all. So now we're moving on to the development proposal at I-75. And I will ask Jessica again to review what each entity in this resolution is committing to between us, Monroe County, and McMinn County, the City of Sweetwater, Watts Bar Utility District, and SUB.
Yes. Okay, so that resolution is also in your packet. This project has taken a lot of time the last 2 months. There is a lot going on. Tom and I are best friends now. We talk every day. We say goodnight to each other on Friday evenings, and then we pick the phone up again Monday morning and start talking again. So Tom is with the development group. I'm going to turn it over to him in just a second. I just want to kind of give you an overview about what's happened so far. You all know I've been attending the McMinn County board meeting, the Monroe County workshop. Watts Bar Utility District has already signed and passed off on what their requested contribution is. I'm going to let Tom talk about specifically what's coming there, but as much as he feels comfortable doing. But basically, this resolution lays out what each of these entities is willing to commit. So the two things that we did not have adequate infrastructure for is the Pleasant Grove Road access, the road that's going into the actual park once it's annexed, which is on the November meeting for annexation and final zoning, and then the water line. So Eric Hicks has been part of this project with McMinn County and Monroe County since 2016 when we first started working on getting it site certified with the state of Tennessee. At that time, we all gave $150,000 towards getting water to the property. The water line we got to the property, I believe, was a 6-inch line. So what they're needing for their development is a 12-inch line because they have to have 2,000 gallons a minute for the fire suppression. This is not money. Jim will know more about this than anyone, but this is not really water that you make money off of because it just sits in a big tank until there's a fire. So Eric and the utility board have already discussed this in their meeting. They're willing to allow Watts Bar Utility District to run water, is it 1.5 miles, 3 miles? 2.7 miles from where it ends in McMinn County, I guess, to the site from the backside. So that way we have two utilities that can actually service the utilities. Sweetwater Utility Board still retains the electric, the gas, and the sewer. So essentially, Watts Bar Utility District will be a customer of Sweetwater Utility Board because of the sewer connection with them supplying water. So this resolution is funding the road improvements and the water line. McMinn County has voted to spend $750,000. They're paying their amount to Watts Bar Utility District for the water line. I wasn't really sure that Sweetwater could pay for a water line that Watts Bar Utility District was putting in, and I said, I'm not even sure if that's legal. I don't know if we're allowed to do that. So what we are investing in is the road infrastructure. Now, the developer is still paying a lot of money for the land itself and then also to put some of that infrastructure in, but that gap, what they needed to be able to make it work, is what this resolution is funding. And so McMinn County's already voted to spend $750,000. Monroe County has agreed in a workshop to spend $250,000, plus allow us to use the $75,000 that they'd already committed to this project that we're holding in the Industrial Development Fund that is actually Monroe County's money for this road improvement project. They vote on theirs tomorrow night. So we won't know for sure that that's passed in Monroe County until tomorrow night's meeting, which Tom and I will be at again together. And then Watts Bar Utility District has voted to fund $300,000 of that part of the water line. Because McMinn County, the City of Sweetwater and Monroe County will not cut any check on this until after all the infrastructure is in. We don't have to bid it. We don't have to build it ourselves. The infrastructure will be in, and 2 buildings will be built. So the first 2 buildings on the project will be built before we're expected to make our contribution. So we're getting to make ours on the back end. McMinn County is having to front theirs because the water line has to go in before the buildings can be built. So because of that, McMinn County has an extra clawback clause that says they're writing a check to Watts Bar Utility District. The developer will have to reimburse McMinn County if they don't then have an occupant in those buildings 2 years after their construction. So there's an additional clawback clause. We're protected in that the 2 buildings have to be constructed before we write anything. But then also, if they're not occupied 2 years after that, McMinn County gets a portion of their money back from the developer. So that's kind of the overview. Now I'm going to turn over to Tom. If you want to talk to this board, which you've been at Planning Commission, some of them, I think everybody was actually here in that meeting, so they kind of already heard an overview, but we'd love to hear as much as you want to tell us, Tom.
Memories are short. We'll start off. I've got a pile here. This first set of information is the overall layout of the park as we envision it, starting out with 1.2 million square feet of industrial space that can grow to 2.1 million. Over time, laid out with a central road and 8 individual lots. And then that's the overall big plan, vision of the proposed development of the park. And then the next page shows the planned road improvements from Highway 68 to the entrance road of the park on Pleasant Grove Road to allow for increased tractor trailer traffic in and out of the park, as well as employee traffic in and out of the park. And we've already had some discussions with PDOT and are working on the traffic impact analysis proposals. We should get one of those secured shortly. And then the last page shows the W. Budd waterline improvement and the 2.7 mile route to get to the park. Eric Hicks worked with us very closely, and we looked at several options coming from the east side of the interstate, but this was the most cost-effective way to service the development. And so we've been able to get good cooperation from McMinn County and W. Budd to help offset some of the cost of that. And so I just wanted you to have a clear idea of the scope of the 3 major parts of the project. Obviously, the road inside the park, and to get to service each building requires water, sewer, gas, and electric. And then we also have, we had prepared an economic impact analysis for the park as shown, starting with 2 buildings, and then adding another building roughly a year each year. And that produces property tax. And in an economic impact analysis like this, they do also consider the wages from the jobs generated, both direct and indirect jobs created. And they do take into account the impact of retail that's generated from those people that are working in your community. And on the front page, it shows a 10-year total of, since you were talking about sales taxes before, it would be a $12 million total over 10 years, roughly adding $1 million a year to your retail sales tax. And then
Half of that goes for education and half of that's retained by the local government that it's purchased in.
And then if you flip to the next to last page, there's a colored chart there with the yellow column is Sweetwater's projected real property taxes. And these, because we're committing to build the building, you will get the real property taxes. So that's a low risk bet. And this is based on the initial 2 buildings and adding a building a year. And so that gives you an idea of what kind of just real property taxes would be generated by a project like this. And of course, these are all projections, right? But this is not the first time we've done this. So I also brought with me an example looking backwards at a project we completed we're actually still working on in Prince George County, Virginia, just south of Richmond. We're on building 13 there, designing
Thanks, sir.
14 and 15. And this looks at a 25-year economic impact. The 10-year economic impact projected for here in Sweetwater is $4.4 billion. The historic reality of what we've done in Virginia over the last 25 years is $24 billion. So that's the thing. It doesn't just end after 10 years. It keeps going. And it in Prince George County at this time, it's producing $1.3 billion a year in economic impact in that community. In that community, it represents 25% of their GDP is produced in that industrial park. And roughly 1 in 5 people in the private workforce work in that industrial park. So a park like this has an enormous impact on a community, and it goes on, and it really will have benefits that radiate out to the rest of the community. So just to finish up, I wanted to give you a quick executive summary. I mentioned the overall first 10-year impact would be $4.4 billion, projecting 1,400 jobs and $84 million in annual wages at full build-out, up to $132 million in real property value created. As I mentioned earlier, there are basically 3 parts to making this development viable. One is the widening of Pleasant Grove Road for appropriate traffic. 2 is to build the park within the road. Pleasant Grove Road is estimated at $536,000. The road within the park is $2.8 million, and then the 2.7 miles of water line improvement through W. Budd is $1.6 million. So that all totals up to just under $5 million. And so we have asked to stay away from the difficulties of going through the whole TIF process. We think that if we can get everyone to cooperate and help us get over this hump, that we can do this in a much simpler fashion and do it much quicker. And the benefit to Sweetwater is that those tax revenues will start flowing to you directly from the beginning, and you don't have to pay off a loan. So Pleasant Grove Road widening, as Jessica mentioned, Monroe County has already passed through committee a $250,000 contribution plus the $75,000 already in the fund for this location. And we're asking for the City of Sweetwater to contribute an additional $136,000 plus the $75,000 that they also have in that fund to go towards the improvements on Pleasant Grove Road. And that would fully fund the improvements to the Pleasant Grove Road section. Then Sweetwater, we're also asking them to contribute an additional $560,000 to the $2.8 million road inside the park. And the developer will then pay the remainder, $2.2 million. And then part three, the good news is W. Budd has already committed, McMinn County has already committed the asked for amounts, and so that portion is already previously agreed. So as Jessica mentioned, McMinn County stands to receive roughly 53% of the annual property tax revenues generated by this project, and Sweetwater will get roughly 47%. So McMinn County has approved $750,000 contribution to the project, and we felt like since the benefits to Sweetwater are pretty close to the same amount as McMinn County, that the $696,000 contribution that we've asked for in new monies would be an equitable way to help fund this project. And if we get the cooperation we're expecting from Monroe County, this would be the last piece of the puzzle.
And you all may wonder why, Monroe County is contributing the least amount compared to everyone else. Just, if you'll look at this map that I've got up here, the blue, this is the property that's in McMinn County, which we'll be annexing. This is the property where the buildings are gonna go, where the industry is gonna locate. This section over here, this parcel 10, I think it's all zone commercial, it's still in Monroe County.
That's all Monroe
So
County.
what Monroe County would benefit off of is commercial businesses locating on that portion in Monroe County right across the street from this development. And they would likely generate sales tax. And of course, Monroe County will get property tax off of that. So obviously that economic impact study does include a lot of sales tax, but what's being generated inside the park is primarily property tax as our benefit. And of course, the benefit of not having to issue a TIF, because companies that do locate inside that property in McMinn County, chances are one of them or multiple ones of them are gonna want a TIF or a pilot or something like that at some point. So this enables us to do this instead of tying up any TIF
Yeah,
or
it
pilot.
does free up the city to, and Monroe County, or McMinn County in this case, to offer a pilot to a company if it's a company you really want to attract. And some of the most desirable companies are looking for that these days. And so I think that's a good tool to keep in your pocket if you can do that.
The other thing that McMinn County, I think, was most willing to pass this after we talked about was the impact of different activities that are going on in Oak Ridge right now and some of the funding that's coming their way and the nuclear program that's starting up there. We have been told in a class that I was in just a couple months ago that they think there's a possibility that they will need 100 suppliers to fill what Oak Ridge is gonna need to be able to do the projects that they are doing. So those suppliers need to be located near the interstate, they need to be within 45 miles of the Oak Ridge property, so this is a good ideal spot for that. And for McMinn County, we're their northernmost interstate access. So for them, it made sense that if they were gonna get to capture any of those developments, that this particular property is probably the most viable.
Yeah, we're just within that rope limit, and we do feel like that's going to be an important driver. The 5 announcements recently included the largest announcement ever in the state of Tennessee, and so there seem to be more coming all the time. And so we really feel like this is an opportunity that's timely and important to be ready to receive the opportunities that are coming down the pike, and they're going to be high quality opportunities that should pay well and bring great investments to this community.
And as I've said every time we've met, I'll say it one more time, I'm happy this company is an East Tennessee company. It's not a company coming from out of state that just wants to drop something here and then run off again. So that gives me a lot of comfort. They also have a great track record, 13 different states.
18 different states, 20
properties in
million square
Tennessee.
feet of leased industrial property. Our preference is to lease them, but we will sell. In the Virginia Economic Impact Study that I handed out, the back page shows the park that we've developed there. The numbered lots, we've built 12 and are building on the 13th. And all the ones with letters are other companies that have located around us because we attracted interest to the community, and then they ended up locating there even though we weren't directly involved. So we see that happen wherever we go, and we also see it attracting retail support as well.
The last thing is they don't do any heavy industrial. So what they're requesting is the zoning for light industrial. They do pharmaceutical companies, suppliers, metalworks people, things that aren't stinky and aren't loud and warehousing. So I'm happy with the business format of their other parks and the composition of what those properties end up being, because they are, we're not gonna have a paper plant at that exit.
Well, and because we're private industrial real estate developers, we have an interest in maintaining property values. So we have to be selective in who we put in the park and control who goes in the park so that one rotten apple doesn't spoil the whole bunch. And we've had that situation occur before and have been able to successfully keep unwanted labor influences out of our parks. And so it's an important benefit to have a privately controlled industrial park for your community.
Does anybody have any questions for Tom about the development or the proposed development?
Is Pleasant Grove Road a county road at this time?
It is a county road at this time.
Is the county gonna agree for the city to annex it and make it a city street?
The city is thrilled, the county is thrilled for the city to annex it and maintain it after it is annexed.
All right.
And they do understand that, which is another reason why they weren't asked for quite as much as everyone else was, because
Well,
technically haven't asked.
they
them
were
for
asked
anything.
for more than they seem to have agreed to approve. Why was that?
Thank everyone, pat DJ Seiler on the back because he got us an extra $50,000. He proposed paying 300. Paulette Summy said no 200, so they ended up deciding on 250, which I thought was better than I thought I was going to get when I was over there. So we did have a county commissioner over there, lobbying for more, which I thought was good.
But did they say why they would not pay what was requested?
Well, Teleco.
Because we're picking up the difference.
I do think they had concerns that they're not gonna get the tax revenue off this that we are, and they won't off the park itself. They're gonna be counting on the
Commercial
property across the
development.
street.
Yes.
And, it'll be at the commercial rate, not the industrial rate, so it's a little bit lower in the property tax realm. I don't think they'll get any sales tax off of the commercial property. I think we will retain all that sales tax, except what goes to education, which is technically a county function also. I don't think they get any percentage of that. Maybe in the state sales tax calculation, but I reached out to MTAS to see if they could give me that answer for sure, and I haven't heard. That was been several weeks ago, and nobody's been able to find anything that says the county would benefit sales tax wise. So the only thing I felt comfortable pitching to them when we talked about this was that they would get property tax off of the commercial side. And just so you all know, they do want us to take Pleasant Grove Road the whole way to Lifestar, like to the county line. Because right now the McMinn County line is right after Lifestar there, basically at the end of this property. So we will have both sides all the way out to city limits. They want to make sure that we were gonna take the whole thing. They didn't want us to take the front portion of it and then them still be responsible for the tail end of that road. They want us to, maintain the whole thing.
So is the whole thing gonna be 32, are we, that it doesn't include construction past the entrance, right?
That's right, it's just to the entrance.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Tom? Tom, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
I'll see
thanks
you
for the
tomorrow,
light
Tom.
reading.
Yeah. See you soon, Tom. So are we ready? Is there a motion to, for approval on this resolution, this joint resolution?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Thank you. Any discussion?
I'll just make a comment that we've been working for a long time, wanting something to come and to be able to team with a company like Tom represents and be selective. I think it's a win-win for us and sets us up to have jobs for folks here in Sweetwater. Thank you, Tom. Thank you guys for all the work you've put in on it.
I was gonna say, Tom, the only thing I don't see on here is a get and go on your site plan. But I'm sure that's forthcoming.
Okay, so we're ready to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. And it sounds like the motion is carried.
Thank you,
Thank
Tom.
you.
If you want to stay and hear about Sweetwater High School or the quarterly financial report, you are more than welcome to. And I know you've been in a million meetings in the last 2 weeks.
So we're going to move on. We also have the resolution to approve acquiring Sweetwater High School as a city school. Rodney and Janet are here. If the board has any more questions for them, and I know John Campbell is here as well. I think if you're comfortable with the wording on the resolution, we can take action on this, or we can also table it to the November meeting. So the resolution to approve the pursuit of acquiring Sweetwater High School as a Sweetwater City school.
What will this resolution do? I mean, as far as there's more boats to come, or this is just to get to the next step or something? That's the way I understood what it was, because I mean, I do have some more questions that I would like to ask. I think going back through your numbers, which I appreciate so much, I finally figured out where the county tax money was coming back to Sweetwater City Schools, and I was pleased with that. But a couple of things that I wanted to address was, and you kind of went over a little bit with Brian in the meeting that you all had, was inspection of the property. I mean, I would like to know that those saying goes, you're not buying a pig in a poke. You know, if there was a professional inspector come in and go through, but the last thing I want is to take on a building that we're going to get down the road just a little bit and there come up hundreds of thousands or how much ever money that it's going to take to repair or replace things that we didn't know about. I just think that would help with the transparency of the whole thing, of being able to know that it's a third party that has inspected it and said, yeah, everything looks good, or you are going to have this coming up that needs to be addressed at some point in time, maybe closer than we thought it would be. I know that would make me feel a lot more comfortable with that. Is that anything that you have planned as far as a
So basically, the answer to that question is yes. Like when you buy anything, whether it's a home or whatever, you want to get an inspection.
Sure.
The terms of we haven't signed a contract yet, but the terms that we've been talking about and discussing with Monroe County is basically buying it as is. So that means it's as is, where it is. But yes, there is time for an inspection period and due diligence, so, you know, we would hire, third-party inspector to come in and do a structural assessment of that and just basically say, yes, this is, you know, structurally sound, there are some things that could be done here, but, Monroe County, and they have representation here tonight, they've done a lot of things over the past few years with, COVID money and ESSER money, that some of those structural things have already been addressed. And I did speak with former administration that was there, during all that COVID funding and all that stuff, just to say that very thing. There was a study done when they were talking about building a new gym. It was from a firm out of Crossville. Sam, you'll have to refresh my memory. You told me the name.
Upland.
Upland. And I was trying to get in touch with them. I put a call in to hopefully, to Monroe County's, maintenance supervisor to get a copy of that, just to say, hey, it'd be nice to have that report, that structural report, and see what they recommended, and then what all you have done. I know they've installed or replaced some of the beams along the front hallway on the whole part of the building, where some of those floor joists and beams over time had sagged a little bit, and there were some cracks in the floors, so they went and replaced a section of it. And then they discovered that more needed to be replaced, so they did. They brought that up to structurally sound. They also did some stuff in the roofs and the peaks of some of those older buildings.
Mhm.
They re-roofed the buildings. They did the, you know, re-brick they re-pointed the brick. But the structural beams that they put in and the steel that they put in, the supports, all that stuff that they did, I've got all of that documented just basically on a checklist. What I don't have is the formal assessment and say, you know, from the engineer or from the firm that says, here's what all we did and here's what we recommend to be done. But to answer that question in short, during the inspection period, you know, we feel like it would be in our best interest to, yes, get a structural assessment. You know, it would be any sale or transfer of the property could be pending that report.
I mean, I should have prefaced all that by saying I would love to have Sweetwater High School in our city school system. At the same time, as a city member of this board, you know, I was elected by the community to also be responsible for fire department, police department, all the other departments, and I just want to do my due diligence in making sure that there's not something that's going to come up in the near future that's going to put the city or the city school board in a bind, especially financially, because we've been there before and we don't want to go back there again. So I mean, I have questions.
Sure.
And another one of those questions is, I know now we have a grant, a governor's grant for SROs in schools. I don't know that we're guaranteed that year to year. It could change at any time. The way I understand it, if I'm wrong, correct me. At any time, if that were to stop, where does that fall back? Because I know we have the MOE that we have. I know we have that. You know, I'm just trying to look and see what else could fall back on this board or the city's budget if something like that were to take place. Has there been something talked about along those lines, how to take care of the SROs needed in school without putting the full burden on this board and the city?
I'll let Rodney take that one, but I do want to, just one more comment to, you know, your question for that is, you know, we understand as the city schools that, you know, we're not asking the city of Sweetwater to purchase the building or,
Sure.
you know, the maintenance on the roof project, we're
Mhm.
going to assume all of that. Likewise, you know, whatever would need to be fixed in that, you know, buying it where it is, as is, and that's on us as the owners to do those repairs and that maintenance work. We're not coming to you guys asking you guys to fund that. That would be coming out of, you know, our budget. And that's something that we have to look at very closely, like, okay, here's what the structural assessment says. If it said you guys need to put some beams here and add this and that, you know, we're not coming back to you guys asking for additional funding. That's what the maintenance of effort, that's what we're asking, is you guys to kick in that maintenance of effort to help us maintain those schools and operate those schools. I know what you're saying, Alan. I'm just telling you,
Sure.
we're not gonna come back to you with our hands out saying, give us more money.
And I understand that, I really do. But as the I guess the term has been used several times, the funding body, you know, at the end of the day, it would come back to the city to be responsible for those things. And I just want to make sure that we are all ready to make that commit. I'm not even gonna say commitment because it's probably a blessing, but that it's not gonna affect everything else, the other employees, the other departments that we have in this city in a negative way, because at the end of the day, the fire department needs new fire trucks, Eddie needs new police cars, the street department needs new dozer. I mean, we've got to make sure that we're able to handle all of those things. And I know that Rodney is very, well, Janet, I guess, is probably the one that's the financier of things there that makes those suggestions. And I do appreciate that, and I do understand that you all take these things very seriously and not going to take them lightly. But I just wanted everything out in the open to make me feel better about it, to be able to move forward with this. I mean, there's just, I would like to have that, if you're going to do that, will that be made available, the inspection report and all those kind of things? And
I mean, again, what you're voting on is the resolution for the maintenance of effort amount, to keep that in annually. That would be annually on top of what you already paid.
yeah,
Now, that just allows us to move forward to get a signed contract with the county. Now, again, anytime you sign a contract, it's, based on whatever you put in that contract. And during that inspection period, if we put it subject to a structural inspection, and we found something that raised red flags and said, oh my gosh, this thing's crumbling, even though you're buying, as is, if the inspection report came back and showed something catastrophic, then that would in turn notify that contract. And then you guys would be notified of that. Of course, we're gonna make that known to you guys, because again, you're the funding body. I understand your concern and your, everybody, like you said, like I said, when you're buying a home, you want those assurances. You don't wanna just buy something and think, okay, it's gonna be good, or somebody put lipstick on a pig. Doing your due diligence pays off in the end. So I understand that completely.
I mean, my wife would probably call me cheap. I like to consider it frugal. But, the maintenance of effort, as if I understand it right now, we're paying more than, and I promise I'm not trying to be a cheapskate. We're paying more than required, correct? I know, is that right? The percentage wise, the city board, we pay a little more than we have to
We don't
pay.
pay just the minimum. Rarely does Janet, I think maybe only one time, have you ever had to come back and say, hey, we weren't quite meeting maintenance of effort, I had to move technology money over to maintenance of effort. So yeah, we don't just do the bare minimum.
Well, the reason that I asked that question, and I have no problem with that, I think we should pay every dime that we can afford to the education of our future generations. If we're not trying to take care of them, then what are we doing up here? I know we said if TISA money were to increase, that the maintenance of effort would need to increase too. Am I correct in
I'm assuming
what
we'll
I
do
heard?
just like they did BEP, which is, this is a local match, and they require that local match be a certain percentage compared to what the federal and state dollars bring in.
And the reason I ask that is if we get to a point that, and I pray to God that it never happens, that we do get in a crunch or something like that, TISA money goes up, our maintenance of effort is already, it doesn't go up to even meet what we're paying now. Are we obligated to increase regardless by that percentage, even if we pay more now?
This is the same law for libraries and schools. So once we hit a certain maintenance of effort number, the federal government or state government can require us to increase our maintenance of effort. So that is always a liability for schools and for libraries. What I would go to say for this is last year for SROs, we also gave an extra $16,000 in equipment for SROs that was not covered by the SRO grant. Well, technically that could be maintenance of effort contribution that we paid towards that. We didn't count it as, I didn't even tell Janet and Rodney that we spent that money. So, I mean, there are other things that we could kind of funnel along with that for maintenance of effort. I think the number that's presented in this resolution is the number that Janet and Rodney feel is a comfortable number to where they're not gonna have to walk back up to us next year and say, here, we need more money because we were wrong and we can't afford. I'm sure there's probably a little wiggle room built into that number. It's probably not the bare minimum number that it could be. So if that is a deal breaker for you all, we can go back and talk about that number again. But I do think that's the number that Janet and Rodney felt most comfortable about. That's what they presented to the city school board, and that's how that number got in this resolution. Is it the bare minimum? No. And we haven't ever given the bare minimum that I know of. You know, we've always tried to do a little bit more. So there's probably a little wiggle room in that if we feel like we need to negotiate that a little bit more. I do think that, and I won't put words in their mouth, so you all can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that Janet and Rodney feel like that's what they can be comfortable with, because there are still some unknowns about Sweetwater High School. I mean, there are some things, and let's be honest, the bulk of what it's gonna cost is on the city school system, not on the city of Sweetwater. I mean, if it were, this conversation would have ended a long time ago, because until Tom gets his buildings built, we can't afford to pay more for schools, so, the bulk of the liability is certainly on them, and I think this does have probably a little bit of padding in there to make sure that they're not asking us for a number and then next year coming back with another handout. I will also say, I've been here 20 years, and in 20 years, I've never had the city school system, well, 11 years that Rodney's been here, I think there's been one time you came up to the city and said, hey, we're gonna have to build a whole new junior high gym, can you help us out a little bit on that? And we added $40,000 to the budget to help with that debt issuance. So that is the only time I can remember Rodney even coming to the city and asking for an increase. The rest of the time, it's just been a number that I kind of calculated and just increased just a little bit to make sure we were staying with maintenance of effort. But it's never been something that they've asked for. So I don't feel like they're overestimating this number. You know, there's a little wiggle room in there because they have some unknowns too, but I also don't think that they're gonna try and come back to us 2 years from now with a huge increase, because they feel like that's what they can do with this money and have enough to make it work. If we did have TSIM increase and we were mandated to increase our maintenance of effort, we still have a little bit of wiggle room there. One, this is probably a little bit more than we have to give. Probably more sales tax numbers will, you know, hopefully sales tax will continue to increase. Hopefully property tax will continue to increase. All of those things can be counted towards maintenance of effort also. So it's not just the check that the city writes to the city school system. Obviously, as Janice showed it, that was more things. Can I ask one quick question just about what, I was working under the assumption this resolution is the first thing the city is voting on. And basically we're saying, we know this is the maintenance of effort amount that you all are asking. And we understand that that's what you're asking us for. And we're also saying we're authorizing you to pay for the capital asset up front, the $1.5 million plus fixing the roof. That's what I think this resolution is saying. Is there another step after this? Obviously, you're signing a contract, but does the funding body have to sign that contract, or is it only the city school system? And this may be a Chuck question. I was under the assumption that the city would have to vote again later, probably on that official contract, but that may not be true. It may be just the city school board that votes on that contract.
Yeah, that's a Chuck question, I think. In the initial talks about this, Chris McCarty, their counsel, their legal counsel, their attorney said, basically, in a nutshell, what has to happen is the county has to agree to release it. You guys have to agree to take it, so they have to sell it. You guys have to agree to buy it, and your funding body has to agree to fund the maintenance of effort portion. Beyond that, it's all paperwork, local and state level, to get it transferred. So,
Because basically this resolution is just what me and John Cleveland came up with. Like, we didn't have a template on this. Nobody gave us a resolution
And
about
this is
what
the
wording
last
was supposed to be in
thing
it. So I'm saying this is our best guess at what we're supposed to be saying. I think everybody would feel comfortable if we had another opportunity to like vote officially once we know all the numbers and we've seen the inspection and all of that
I
stuff.
agree.
And I may be speaking on their behalf, but I was kind of under the assumption that was going to be the case anyway.
That's the assumption I was
Yeah,
under as
But
well.
this is, we know that's what it's gonna cost us, we're willing to move forward with it, it's a good investment for us. And then, when it comes time that we actually have a final number and a contract to sign, I think we'd like to be a part of that again.
and I think the way that it's worded, it says that, the pursuit of the acquisition of Sweetwater High School.
Yeah.
It does not say the final contract or
Right.
the final purchase of.
But if that final contract
But we
doesn't
might
have to
not
come
need
back
to
to
be
the city
there.
board, we still want it to, we
Yeah,
still, we wanna be the final
understand
vote.
that. And that's kind of what Alan was getting at, he wanted to see a structural report.
Yeah.
I understand that. This basically gives us the freedom to move forward, you know. So far, you guys allowed us to formally negotiate with the county. You let us exchange letters with our attorneys. This basically lets us sit down at a table and draft and sign a contract. Then it can be brought back to you guys for final approval, subject to that report. that
I
structural
mean, I think there's like I said, if that's the case, I mean, I think it needs to come back again to this board. And there's things, such as the SROs, you know, those are things that we need to have figured out and documented on how that's gonna be funded if this grant were to go away. I mean, because I have no problem with the $443,000 MOE. I wish it could be 1.5 that we could pay, whatever it takes. I wish it was possible. But at the same time, if the Tennessee governor's grant were to go away for the SROs, which we've got to have in our schools, you know, I would go crazy if I knew I had a kid in school that didn't have an SRO there. And at that point in time, you're looking at another $450,000 a year coming back into the police department's budget to fund SROs. I don't know how feasible that is. Those are just answers that I would like to have, and maybe something worked out to see how we're going to fund that. Hopefully we can get that grant for the next 50 years for SROs. But there's always a possibility that it's not going to be renewed next year, and I think we just need to have a plan on how that's going to be handled if it were to come to that. That's probably one example of something that I would like to have worked out beforehand, before doing a final vote.
I didn't mean to jump in there. I probably blabbed a little too much. I don't know if you got your SRO question answered, because I was talking about inspections, so, you know, Rodney or Janet may want to answer that. I don't know all the legalities of funding the SRO, but you're right. I mean, it's a mandated thing. You know, they mandate that you gotta have so many SROs per student per head
Right.
count. And so it's not just Sweetwater City Schools that's in that same boat. It's Monroe County Schools and all the other school systems across the state of Tennessee are dealing with the same thing. If you're gonna mandate it, then it needs to be funded.
Right.
And so far, they have funded. But just like anything else, you never know when that funding's gonna dry up
Yep.
or go away. But if it does for Sweetwater City Schools, it does for Monroe County Schools, it does for every
Sure.
other district across the state. And your elected officials know that.
But then to me, there needs to be a plan on how that's going to be funded. I mean, is the school board going to assume some of that, or is it all going to fall back on the city of Sweetwater and Eddie's police budget, or, I mean, that's just,
Before we had, from the governor, we split the cost with the city. So it's 50/50, so we pay 50%, they pay 50%. So I would assume that's probably what we go back to. Unfortunately, the thing that we have to deal with, and John mentioned this about, mandating having SROs in schools. In the education world, there are lots of unfunded mandates that we deal with on a regular basis. But this particular one, I feel very comfortable that with everything that goes on with school shootings, I think it is a hot topic thing across the state about student protection. And I feel like if this one would raise a lot of eyebrows if this tried to be done away with, because of the fact that it's, you know, it may be a Governor Lee thing, but I feel like across the state, if they tried to do away with that, funding SROs for schools, I think it would get pretty ugly.
and I would hope that's the case, because I think it should be funded as well, but there's always that possibility.
Well, I guess a fallback plan, we would have to talk about it, but we've for years past, we've done 50/50. It's not on the city completely to fund those officers, nor is it the school. We just always work together and do 50/50. We worked on training, getting the training paid for, and all that kind of stuff. So, worst case scenario, we can go back to that if we have to. Neither one of us want to do it.
Right, all right.
I have a question for Janet. On the numbers that you gave us with regard to like the salaries, did that include any coaching supplements, or our coaching supplements are not included in that?
The $8 million salary?
Yes.
That did not.
But-
It's just the salary.
But it did include the pay, like, I don't know what you call it, where they can retire and pay the insurance. It did require that for all the school system employees, right? That
No.
number?
That was for Sweetwater City, the number that I gave you in that presentation.
Okay, Sweetwater City, then will there be a different number for Sweetwater High School, or did that include Sweetwater High School with Sweetwater City?
So it did not include the high school, because at that particular time when the presentation was made, I did not have all of the calculations necessary to kind of project out what that was gonna be. We did get their policy on what they do for retiree insurance, and that was different than what I had calculated. So I calculated our actual certified teachers, and their
Okay.
policy currently says for all employees, so that means non-certified as well. So
Okay.
in order to project out what those long-term
employees they have at that school?
I don't, I'm thinking it's fairly close to where our primary is, based on their student number. What would you say, 60-ish or so?
65.
And I don't know if that's on support staff and to the cafeteria and all things, but, so the number that was presented was only our calculations for city school employees, again, for just teacher retirement insurance.
It's
Now-
for full-time too, isn't it?
Correct.
Full-time.
Did those numbers include anything, that did not include anything for athletics, not besides coaching? It didn't include any kind of, like, money for athletics, maintenance, fields, anything like that? We don't have any idea on that.
But, and part of the reason for that is a lot of times those, fortunately, I guess, is they have been able to generate enough gate money and everything else that they kind of fund themselves. Now, yes, we have to rescue them sometimes, but for the most part, especially the major sports, will fund themselves.
And it's a lot of donations too. It's a lot of, a lot of money
It's a lot of
from community.
Do,
Yeah.
do we even get anything now?
Probably
I mean,
not.
when we were out there 6 years ago, we didn't get one dime from the county. It all came from parents, community, kids, etc. So there was nothing ever in the budget. Eddie, how many fences did we paint, buddy?
And each other. Yes.
But looking forward, that's one of those things that I think would be good for us to, as a school system, to look at, funding athletics some, especially if it's, we're just, the high school and junior high school and, the lower schools too. But, being able to put some money in the budget for that because, people raised a lot of money over the years and it'd be nice to have a little break from that.
Did you ever receive any information on what it would cost for the pay increase for the county personnel that became city teachers?
Definite numbers, I would say no. I mean, we've had conversation, but putting a pen to paper, penny for penny, no. But we can probably give you pretty close. Obviously, this thing goes to the next step, then it's gonna be to where we probably really hone in on what it's gonna cost financially to add the additional, the coaching supplements. Ironically, those supplements stayed pretty low until recently, which I'm glad to see that, because to be competitive, you have to have, you have to pay the guys out there to spend the time. But for us, it's like, I did baseball for $990 the whole season as a coach. Now I think they're 5,000, 3,500, 4,500. I don't know. I'm not saying we need to go back to that because the quality of coaches. I mean, I think for me, I'm probably worth $900. But those things, and I said this before. I'm really curious as to know, how many 20+ years, because I think that's part of their policy. 20 years service to Monroe County Schools to be qualified for the insurance. They've had a lot of turnover at high school. I don't think that there's a whole lot of those in the immediate future that's going to affect us. So I don't think that number is going to affect us as much as catching our folks up, because I think we've got a lot of 20-year plus, 30-year people.
But your numbers included those people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They did
Okay.
include that.
Okay.
One thing to consider too.
Only
Did
your
you ever-
teachers.
Did you ever get any information? I know one thing we discussed at our joint meeting, has the county ever indicated what equipment they think has to stay with them that you would have to replace? I know at their school board meeting where they approved the letter they sent you all last, their chairman specifically mentioned the student computers. I don't know what it would cost you to buy 600 tablets, but do we know that?
Well, you can figure about $280 a piece, depending on how many students, and you can kind of get a number fairly quickly. Now, that's probably what we gave for them this in 2025.
Mm-hmm.
So 2026, I would assume, and they stayed pretty close to that. So to give you a definite number, no, but if I really had a calculator and not in my head, I could probably tell you 20, 30 minutes.
Let me tell you what, like, where we, excuse me, where we don't know what raises will cost, what we don't know what this legacy health insurance is gonna cost, we don't know what equipment they intend to try to keep that you'd have to replace, are those numbers that would affect that maintenance of effort number. In other words, if you got into it and there's $2 million of cost that you didn't know about, or weren't sure of at the time, but now it's pretty definite, is that going to affect this maintenance of effort number we're talking about tonight?
No, it will not. So maintenance of effort is not calculated on expenditures at all. Maintenance of effort is calculated on the city's obligation to help fund local monies for this funding body here, or for us, I should say. So no, expenditures are not have anything to do with the number that's on this resolution. That's just maintenance of effort that's calculated based on the TISA allocations to the city of Sweetwater, for Sweetwater City School. Does that help with anything?
And that's stuff that is still being negotiated, Jen, as far as the attorneys go, and speaking between boards, those items, or, that would be, remain with the school, in layman's terms, it's lock, stock, and barrel. You buy it, it's yours. What's there is there. But, the wording in the letters between the attorneys also said, any grant-funded item that couldn't legally be transferred. Well, of course, we're not gonna do anything illegal, neither side wants to do anything illegal, and our attorneys have to hammer those details out. If there are items there that were grant funded, but they say, yeah, of course it could be transferred, it was funded for education of kids at Sweetwater High School, of course it could be legally transferred. And that, the wording of the contract itself would reflect that. That's something Chuck and Chris, they're discussing and talking about those items that would be transferred, the contents. I see what you're getting at, because I've heard anything and everything, throughout this process about taxes doubling, and they're gonna take everything down to the locks on the school. I mean, you hear all those things flying around town, and you wonder where in the world it's coming from. Like, who makes this stuff up? But when you talk to these people eyeball to eyeball, they say, of course not. Why would we raid that school? That's there for those kids. So, yes, that the contents is one of those things that's still out there to be hammered out with the attorneys. But that's what we pay Chuck for, and that's what they pay Chris for, is to sit down and draft those things. And we sit down and say, pencil and paper, here's what stays, here's what goes. And again, at the end of the day, that comes before you guys, before the deal's ever done.
Well, I just don't want to be here 2 years from now having to explain to the people why that $400,000 is now $8. And let me say too, to this point, I think we have tried to pretty much keep our nose out of negotiating the details, and you all have represented us well, and we have confidence in our school board, to see that our interests are protected, and we certainly have confidence in the administration. But I think we ask these questions because we don't want to be here one night explaining why we do have to have a tax increase, because we didn't look under all the rocks. Okay.
I understand that completely, and, when Buster was here, he said that very same thing, when we borrowed money for the gym, and he told Rodney in the meeting, he said, don't you come back here with your hand out asking for more. I wanna know right now how much you need, and that's why, I feel like that's what you guys are saying, and we fully understand that. Like, that's what those numbers reflect, that's what we've negotiated with the county, and we understand, anything beyond that is not on the city council, it's on the city schools.
John, can I ask you a legal question in the middle of all this?
Yeah.
So based on some of the questions that have been asked, the resolution, I think that's before us, is to approve the pursuit of happiness of getting Sweetwater High School, right?
Right. Yes.
And the resolution is basically this $443,000, which I think the board, the commission, we 100% I think agree with the presentation, discussion, the joint on that particular number. And is it viable in presenting or making a motion for this that it would be contingent upon X number of items? Can we add that contingency to that? Is there anything wrong?
Or are you talking about adding it to the resolution? I don't,
Uh,
the resolution can say whatever you as a body want it to say, but essentially it serves two purposes. As all resolutions do, they're not truly binding because they're one-sided. This is not something that the school board or the county or anybody else is agreeing with us about. This is just our resolution that sets forth a statement of intent that you all are approving the acquisition and for them to pursue it.
Pursue it.
It also is a statement of understanding. Matter of fact, there's not that much, sometimes we talk about a memorandum of understanding. Those are agreements that are bilateral, but this is, once again, it's one-sided. It's saying that for the purpose of communication among all the parties, that this is what the mayor and the board understand now is what's expected to be the maintenance of effort. And I really don't know that it matters much what it says the maintenance of effort is beyond what your expectation is that it's going to be. Because it's been clear from the discussion, it may be less, it may be more. It's not something you're purchasing goods and you're going to pay X number of dollars. But it serves those two purposes. And for the purpose of the communication, we could add as much as you want or don't want.
Okay.
I think a major purpose of us putting something on paper, which we have done, is to broadcast to everybody involved that, depending on what the terms are, that the city board is behind this. So that there's been too much, I think, throughout this whole process of, well, the ball's in your court. No, we need for you all to tell us this. And then, well, we can't really tell you this until you tell us that. And back and forth. And this is an effort to move things along. And so that's the purpose it serves. And I would suggest that while we could add everything in there that you might possibly want to, down to every jot and tittle that'll be in the contract, we might be here next year, back and forth, and the same thing. One of the things that I put in the very, I think it's maybe the very last whereas, is whereas we trust our administration's judgment in all of these details that aren't included. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't know what the information is, what all that is, but I think judging from the comments from the board that you all are confident that the city board and the administration is going to let you know what all those are anyway. So yes, we can add whatever you feel like we need to put the brakes on for.
Just once again, you know how I ask questions that are sometimes obvious just to get information out there, and that's what I just wanted to ask a question to make sure that I was in full understanding that this was approval of the pursuit based on this particular number at this time.
Yeah, it is.
With more information to come that affects the overall.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
And just to comment on that, having worked for Rodney for 7 years, and I know that you all probably feel the much the same I do on the confidence that I put in him, in as a steward of the taxpayer money and state, federal. He has been very responsible in that. And I know as a board, not only the school board, but the city board as well would be very appreciative of how he and Janet have worked so closely and done what they have for our school district. But that's just my 2 cents.
Well, this resolution also says at the very ending, it's our intent and aspiration to ratify the acquisition upon the presentation of an executed contract.
Right.
So I
It
think it's
antici-
clear our intent is that comes back to us.
Yeah, it's been my understanding all along from the
Approval.
beginning that that's what this process is, and yes, it does say that, and that's what it means.
But as for Eddie,
Nobody
is that
wants
gonna
to
add
get to
anything
the-
your
Nobody wants to get to
personnel
that point.
needs?
One thing, I don't know if I have the right to speak or not, but one thing I need to make clear for everybody to understand, that the governor's grant one person per building. So somebody's gonna have to ante up the expense of the other SRO at the high school.
And it's subject to funding.
Yes.
Every time the
Yeah, that's
legislature
subject
meets.
to funding. You know, I wouldn't think because we put the city's name on it, those kids desire less security than county kids do now.
Yeah.
You know, so somebody's gonna have to pay for that position.
Yeah, I agree.
Position, vehicle, equipment.
May I make one comment about, y'all are talking about what may be in the future for funding for this, funding for that, mandates and requirements. It seems to me that one of the biggest drivers for all of this is that if any of those things happen that create problems or emergencies, that our students are in a whole lot better shape if the Sweetwater City school system has control of how that gets handled, rather than if the county has control about how those emergencies get handled. So,
And with all due respect, I do agree with that 100%. 100%. But as I stated earlier, the position of this board includes more responsibility than just that. You know, so I mean, I am very pleased with the information that's been given to us. I wish we'd have got some numbers a little quicker, but I just know they weren't available. I think that I don't want to feel like we're rushing anything. I really don't. I've still got not one of my kids, but one that I'm raising is still in the Sweetwater City school system, and I would like nothing better than for her to graduate from Sweetwater. Can we call it Sweetwater City High School if it goes to that, or whatever the case may be? You know, but I just like Jim said, I don't want to leave any rock unturned that may come back and bite anybody in the hind end at some point in time. And you know, anyway.
So,
I move approval of the resolution as presented.
Second.
okay, any discussion? Can I please have a roll call? Ms. Morgan?
Commissioner Levingood,
Aye.
Commissioner Richardson,
Aye.
Commissioner Mosier,
Aye.
Commissioner Jinks,
Aye.
Commissioner Stats.
Aye.
All righty. So hearing all ayes and no nays, the motion of the resolution to approve acquiring Sweetwater High School as a city school has passed. Thank you very much.
Very good discussion.
Okay. And now we will, do I need to take a break? That's all for the call meeting, so. Tom, thank you for sticking around for that.
See you, Tom.
You can't get enough of us.
Sam, is this your?
We're gonna take a 5-minute potty break.
Are you kidding me?
It under here, and I'm like, what is up with that? I was like,
It
it's
is.
a black umbrella, and it looks like a box.
No,
I was thinking
No
a lot
way.
of this when it comes down with an actual fire.
That is hilarious. Just to think that we just were talking about that.
That's it. That's
I
exactly
would have said something. I would have just. I would have saw that umbrella for years and not done anything.
I bet I'd have carried it in during planning commission because Jackie sits there and I sit there.
No way.
I'm gonna go buy a lotto ticket and we'll split it.
The back building is practically brand new, and the old building has been there for over 120 years, and it's not falling down yet. See it? But here's the thing, I know what I'm trying to push is there's several steps, a couple more steps that have to be made. You know, this was just to get us to the next step, and I would have thought we didn't come back to that. I'm glad you pointed that out in the resolution, because I'm thinking it's truly what it is just to get us to the next step. We have people panicking over the conversation. You know, and it's like, no, we're not even, this is just talking about it. And this is just another step to what we're trying to accomplish. Thank you for asking questions that don't really have an answer, so I can sort of bullshit around it. But, yeah. When it comes down to the bottom line, it's all these things. It really comes down. Don't let the party be the enemy of the good.
It's gonna be summer by the time everyone's getting
But that's over. I mean, I'm serious. And I've talked to other high schools and seen the number of students there. That's not. We may have to, if we really need to.
with the city road situation. They're never gonna do
I just feel these county schools are sometimes a little scary. They're kind of essentially. You know, so I think one is our 550 is who happen to be funding. I hope so.
Don't give too much credit.
Just compare. It's the genes in these kids now. Yeah. You think about this compared to some counties.
We had
Those kids are.
you listen to, we had a you do thing with they sent their kids to the web, and he got convicted for selling marijuana to everybody at the web. Who was the kids?
Board? No. Board? Oh, really?
Yeah, our kids go up there, I get a name of the building, ain't gonna change the kids. It may change the attitude, but then Keelan's and Jason. Or you.
Oh, I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. That's good. That's what happened. This is the same thing. Blood clot. Oh, yeah. I may not see this thing through. Jason leaves me.
We'll say that out
Because I'm
loud,
telling
right?
you, he was kind of one of those counselors around this hospital transition. He's had a hospital. I've been a teacher at hospital. But that's why, you know, I was a little bit prepared for some questions. But I didn't feel like this was a topic.
Well, that's not that bad, people, and that's I'm like, so changes the name, we don't give them social security. You know, that's like a.
Well, you know, sandwich all that stuff.
I mean, they got two. You think they'll go have two?
John, he was our only hope.
Oh, gosh. Or pull me over. He said, yes, he did do that to me one morning. John pulled me over. I was going, I was like, John, I ain't got y'all wasn't going more than 20. You're supposed to be 15. I'm like, okay, take it serious. Okay.
What you trying to do is
You're I heard that. Okay. T minus 2 minutes. Thank you, Janet. You did such a great job with your presentation. Yeah. Yeah. No, with maintenance effort. Yeah. Yeah.
There was $1 million extra dollars in health insurance.
Right. But how many do we actually have, really? Okay. 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 Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yes. Well, but you're not doing that for new employees. So it's already, yes. Okay. Gotcha.
So I think
Gotcha, yeah. Yeah. Right. But Ron is right, there has been a lot of turnover at the high school.
Johnny, they started building a fire truck.
Yeah.
No?
Thank you, thank you.
Let them know if I get a chance.
Yes,
It's a small town in Ohio.
yes.
This town's small, so we can do this.
Yeah. Because there's Bojangles everywhere. I mean, we could do a Bojangles, but we've got, yeah. Yes.
They've owned it for 10 years.
Yeah.
Florida and like Ohio's huge down there.
Oh, yes.
I love Popeyes.
Those are big,
Yes, I do too. Yes.
big undertaking.
Know more about city process before I.
Yeah.
Okay. Come on. Come on back. Come on back. Come on back. We'll get the workshop started. And you're right, I went over by quite a bit, but it's never, yes. Okay. We'll give Branham time to.
Can I get you some dessert?
She found my uncle. Did you see that?
I guess you don't need that one. Back here, I'll take it.
Was it yours?
Yes. I've been looking for that thing for months. She's been kicking it for 4 months. Planning commission. That's where I sit.
Okay. Branham, can you hear me? I'm going to go ahead and. Okay, so going into our workshop discussion, we've received a petition on the Oakland View Estate property for a group of citizens who live there. The successor developer did not sign the petition, but several others did. I'm going to turn this over to John Cleveland to discuss the next steps.
The petition itself been signed by the owners of 85% of the properties that are improved out there. In other words, 85%, actually more than 85% of the owners, but 85% of the properties. Most of the properties have two owners, husband and wife, or partners, or whatever. Actually, the percentage of the owners would be way higher than that. There's nothing I know of that requires that it be unanimous. Once we've received it, the statute requires that we schedule a public hearing no more than 30 days nor less than 45 days after today. We have to give notice to all of the property owners, which shouldn't be too difficult because it'll just be going, like I say, to 20 different properties on the ones that are improved, and then other than that, it'll just be going to Center Point Development. There's some particular requirements for how the public hearing goes under this statute than just an ordinary public hearing. It's open to the public, but the only people who get to speak are the property owners, including the developer, who of course owns more of the property than any one of the individuals. If they don't appear or don't object or somehow or other comment or object in writing ahead of time, then they forfeit the right to object to inclusion of any property. The strange thing is that there's, as far as I can tell from the statute, there's no way for individuals to opt out anyway. But so we'll just have to see how that shakes out when we have that meeting. Now, the statute, and this is sort of maybe a little just CYA, but I'm going to say that the statute requires us to pass the resolution on first reading before we have the public hearing. And the public hearing sort of ends up as an open meeting, because the statute says that after everybody's had their say, you all can amend it, you can reject it, you can pass it as it was presented in the first place, you can do anything that you want to with it. Add terms, change terms, or whatever. And then you have to have your second and final vote on the resolution right then, at the conclusion of the meeting, of the hearing. So, I've already started on a resolution that I think includes, I've already included most everything I think will need to be in it. I've got a few things in mind that probably need to be added to my draft. So what I'm suggesting is that we all need to be pretty well prepared with whatever our concerns are before we even pass this resolution on first reading. And so I will, of course, pass it around here at City Hall with the staff and get all the input I can there, and then forward this to each of you so that you can let me know what else you think needs to be in it or needs to be different. There's this, in general terms, what their petition has asked for is that the special assessments only be taxed against the lots that have never been sold by a developer. And that's what I put in this resolution. That could be different. There's 3 or 4 different options. It could be, allotted amongst all of the lots, or like they said, just the ones that have never been sold, or it could be that the city would bear some percentage of whatever the cost will be for the infrastructure, because we've discussed in workshops before how the depth of the top coat may be different. It is required to be deeper now than it was when that was made. Y'all may think the equities are that. We should pay for that increase. The city y'all could agree to just pay it all out of the city's general fund. More power to any of you that are that brave. But what I'm saying is it's wide open. You could charge interest on this, on the special assessment, or you can not charge interest on the special assessment. There's just a lot of things. And I'll try to have everything in that resolution, in that draft, that you all should consider. It may say interest will be charged on the special assessment at the rate of 0% or a blank, and y'all can decide whether you want to charge or how much. That's the next step. And that's, coming up pretty quick with everything else that's going on.
So I would recommend we put this on the December 1st meeting. That gives us enough time to advertise the public hearing. Are there any special advertising requirements other than a regular public hearing?
As far as I know, it's just the same.
So advertise the public hearing, get the letters out to all the property owners, and then in that one meeting, am I understanding this correctly? December 1st is first reading, public hearing with property owners only speaking.
Right.
Second reading, all in the same meeting.
Yes.
Okay. Which is unusual for a resolution. We usually just do one reading on those, but I guess this is by statute a special something. So.
Well, the statute actually says that if our ordinances require 2 readings of the resolution, but, just sort of CYA, I think we ought to have the 2 readings. And it also has the clarity of, this is what we passed on first reading, this is what the public hearing is about. This gives us a clear starting point for the discussions. So that's the process. I don't know if y'all want to hear anything more about. I understand they did talk with Delane.
So the 4 property owners, the 4 individuals that did not sign, 2 of those homes are in the process of a divorce, and it is a nasty situation. So that's why there's 2 signatures missing from 2 of those properties. One was out of town and was not able to sign, and they do have a language barrier. The other, I served a letter to asking for them to contact me, and they refused to answer their door. So I just don't know if they're not social people, to be sure. I did email Delane on October the 10th. I spoke to him by phone on October the 14th, and was pretty much told under no uncertain terms would CenterPoint sign anything unless the City of Sweetwater provided payment towards the roads also. So I did let him know that I was happy to provide a copy of the petition for him to review, and that I never heard back from him after that. I mean, if I have the date and time, I can certainly try to get as many homeowners here as possible, varying jobs, but.
So December 1st.
Yeah, the neighborhood is certainly on board with making sure that we do have a resolution.
Yes, it does.
In hopes that it is going to be based on no additional funds coming from us, since most of us are paying our property taxes.
Mr. Attorney, school me if you would, please. As I read through the statute, it appears to me to be primarily a funding mechanism.
It is, and it's all designed and drafted for a new development where the developer is asking for this funding, and when it talks about the signature of the owner, it's as if there's no more than one or two or three property owners that are going to be selling the property to the developer, and it's a whole different situation. But it says in the introductory sections that it can be used for improvements too, and maintenance. I don't know if it uses the word maintenance, but I think it pretty clearly authorizes us to use this as a mechanism for these streets.
Well, I guess what I'm a little bit concerned with, it goes into 2 or 3 sections talking about how, like either the city or industrial development board collects these assessments. I think it's industrial, but one of the boards, and then pays them to the developer.
Right.
So our resolution will need to make clear that this is repaying the city, right? Is that who gets this assessment as each lot sold?
Right.
Comes to the city.
Yeah, it comes to the city. Because
having done the paving.
The way this is designed, we're the contractors. We're the ones that are doing in terms of the contract, we're the ones in terms of actually building it out, we're the developer.
And these, if I understand correctly, these streets have never been accepted by the city, is that
That's
right?
correct. They've
So
not.
where in this whole process do they become city streets? Are we paving private property?
Well, no, they will. This is a continuation of the subdivision development that was approved by the Planning Commission 17, 18 years ago, where we're basically taking over what the developer's responsibility was from the beginning, as if it should have been covered by a bond.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't. And as soon as it's paved, as soon as it is acceptable to the city, then we're going to accept them and adopt it as city street.
John, that's the process now? Even like they come before planning commission, we approve a subdivision, we approve it all being built out.
It is.
We don't accept them until the final coat and it's been inspected, right?
Right, yes, we don't adopt it until after it's fully built out, then the developer has to come to the city council and request that it be adopted.
Is that part of?
Well, I mean, Mr. Davis apparently hasn't shown any interest in resolving this problem.
Right.
So if and I understand he's not even participating in these discussions. So, if we run out there and pave it and say, okay, they're now city streets, and he says, well, then I'll sue you for taking my property without paying me for it. Where does that leave us?
I think where it leaves us is that as the successor developer, he stands in the same shoes as the original developer. And if you look at his plat, and I'm going to go out on a limb here because I'm not looking at it right now in front of me, but it's got a dedication of streets that are shown on that plat as soon as it's approved. And so he purchased this property subject to that to that dedication. Now that's a dedication; it's not an acceptance. Right. But they've already been dedicated. He bought it that way.
Help, and would he consider signing if we had some kind of just memorandum of understanding that said the city is going to invest in this street infrastructure and they will be owned by the city, and you're giving up all claims to rights to the land or the streets? Does that help? Does that make it more muddy?
Well, I think it does make it more muddy, but I think the third word that you said makes it impossible, and that is understanding. There's, as he said as recently as October the 17th, 14th, he's not gonna sign anything that doesn't require the city to pay for it.
I have another question. If we move forward, or once you guys annex these actual roads and take on and actually put the final layer, does his ability to continue building at that point not then start back? Because he is not able to get building permits in the neighborhood, or anyone in the neighborhood cannot build until this is completed. So this then actually opens financial gain to him by allowing this to be completed.
And yet
Yeah.
he's still not willing to pay for
It does. And all these points have been made many times over the last at least 10 years that I've had anything to do with it.
Clarification.
Oh, yeah.
To let that be known, because my concern is at this point, we are in an impasse of safety in our neighborhood because one man doesn't wanna come off of $116,000 and he's able to make easily money on 34 lots.
Delane would have somewhat of a conundrum about arguing that we need to pay him for his streets when his argument.
No, I'm not suggesting that at all.
No, no.
And I would have made a motion to pay it when it first came in here.
When
So
he,
I'm past that point.
no,
I just
I'm-
don't want us to become involved in a
Right.
bigger mess
Right.
than it already is. Let's find an answer and take care of these folks. And, you know,
I'm just saying that his argument has been all along, he never bought the subdivision, he never bought the streets, he just bought the lots in the first place.
And his comment to me whenever I spoke to him was, the city should have enacted a bond from the get-go to make sure that this would have handled, so the city was the one that dropped the ball.
We weren't there at the closing when he bought it.
Well, and also in order to maintain a bond, there has
Oh,
to be
well,
ownership and an
that's-
actual insurable interest, and if there's no
Yeah.
insurable interest, you can't hold a bond. Luckily enough, I've been in the insurance industry for 20+ years, and I do understand that.
So, I know, I'm sort of wondering what other questions you might have that I can sort of put into the drafting of this, but you all haven't seen any of it, so you don't know what questions to ask either.
If we decide that every lot that has not been purchased to this point gets this special tax put on it
Yeah.
to pay for the roads.
Right.
What if he decides not to sell the lots?
It's a lien against the property from the minute that you all, from what date? December, when are we having the meeting?
December 1st.
December 1st. From that instant, it's a lien against the property, and the very next day we'll be recording that resolution in the Register of Deeds office. And if he never sells them, the way I've got it drafted right now, it comes due upon sale. But we can change that to where the statute talks about the special assessment being paid at least annually. You know, we could put 1% interest. The statute says it authorizes 1% interest when it's not paid. And we could require that it be paid. But, you know, I don't quite understand how they mean for it to be paid annually if it's a portion of the total cost. I guess if we wanted it to be paid annually, we'd amortize it over some number of years or something, and but do what? Oh, and add
I
in.
just say we treat it like we do every other special assessment, which is to file a lien against the property, go file it, like John said, at the Register of Deeds, and then every year when we send out their property tax notice, they get a bill for that special assessment. And if they don't pay it, they accrue interest on it. And whenever it does finally get sold, somebody's gonna pay it, because they can't get title insurance, or they can't sell it unless somebody's paid that lien. So I say we handle it like every other special assessment, whether we're mowing their grass or tearing down a building or whatever.
At the same time, we don't want to make the lots unmarketable, and we want somebody to buy them.
So if I could ask a question, there's a couple things that were said that seem to be butting heads with each other. First of all, I heard somebody say that Delane has said that he just bought the lots, not the subdivision.
That's what he said ever since this came up, that it's his understanding he just bought lots. He didn't buy the subdivision.
Okay, then who owns the road now?
Delane.
Delane does. His
I
deed.
mean, with his way of thinking, who owns it then? I mean,
In his way of thinking,
And
they're city
if there's a
streets, and we
plaque-
have to, and the city has to pave it.
If there's a plat that shows the dedication of the roads, I think
Yeah.
is the way you said it, is there any other way besides the owner coming, asking the city to adopt those for the city? Is there any other way for the city to adopt those without the owner coming
Yeah, I don't
and
think the
asking?
owner has to come in. They have to be submitted, the completion has to be submitted by the planning commission. And I think that's all it takes.
They request us to take them. The developer requests.
Well, I don't know.
A request for the city to adopt them.
After they're already,
When they're done and we, basically they're completed, we have to go out and inspect and make sure it meets our
Right.
specs
Right.
and our standards, and they have to request that the city adopt those. There's no, to my knowledge, and I'm not an attorney, but to my knowledge, there's nothing that says we have to adopt those. They request that we adopt those as city streets, and if they're built to our specs and our standards, and we're comfortable adopting them, we do so.
Well, I think if they do meet our standards, we have to adopt them.
Without the owner's request because of the dedication that's already on the plat, or I'm not trying to
Also,
follow up
I
with what
think
Jim said there. I
also
don't want to
by
get into litigation that we don't need to.
also by analogy to this being guaranteed by a letter of credit or a bond. You know, if the bonding company were, if there had been a bond and the bonding company hired a contractor to go out there and did this, then the bonding company would, I'm sure, be demanding that the city accept them. Otherwise, they're going to be on the hook, continuing for however long, for some indefinite period of time. So I don't really see that as an insurmountable problem.
So if there was a letter of credit instead of a bond, the folks filed, they declared bankruptcy, and so that letter of credit went away. Is that how that works?
I wasn't involved in the bankruptcy, but I do know, just from talking with everybody, that there was no claim filed on behalf of the city in the bankruptcy. And I don't know of any reason that it would not have been discharged in bankruptcy, even if it had been. I think that the way that's taken care of in terms of what the courts have dealt with is that whoever takes over, whoever ends up with all that property after the bankruptcy is by definition the successor developer with all of those obligations of the developer.
So how long was that original plat that got approved and started good for?
How long is it good for?
Yeah.
So I'll show you here, because you had asked me, about, basically if there was a major road plan, or not a major road plan, if there was a complete site plan for that development. There it is. I mean, that's basically, this is a preliminary plat or a concept drawing. This is not a final plat that's been recorded. It's what they submitted and said they want to do, how they want to develop it. So here's Oakland Road, here's Patton Street coming up to the top of the hill, and these are the roads that are in question. You know, these portions of roads that have been, they've got the base coat, they've got the binder, but they don't have that top coat. And at the time, if you look here on the cross section, it called for a 1-inch top coat of asphalt. Our current regulations call for 2 inch, and that's what you were mentioning about, you know, making up that difference, that inch difference. But anyway, this was the total build out. What was proposed by, I think Mike Wilson is the name of the original developer, Mike Wilson. Now, they did it in different phases. This portion that you all are actually talking about, this is a final plan. With the signatures of approval. This is a copy that was left here, so it doesn't have the stamp where it was recorded at the county level, but that's what you would see. So these lots have been created. These lots exist, and a bond was in place for the amount of $26,250. certification of approval for the streets and the drainage system, talks about the performance bond has been posted, maintenance bond in the amount of $26,250, 40% of the value of all the drainage improvements installed, blah, blah, blah. So evidently there was a bond in place, a performance bond in place to cover most likely what was left to do, the amount of what was left to do. I don't know at what point the developer filed bankruptcy, when the thing sold, and what happened to that bond. I don't know. I wasn't here, couldn't tell you. But what I do know is, you know, these are lots, and the building permits that were issued to build on those lots were fine as long as the bond was in place to cover that. Well, bankruptcy hit, and the bond's gone, the money's gone, the roads are complete. So now I can't issue any more building permits on any of those lots. Even if someone has a home and wants to build a garage, I can't issue them a building permit because, again, the roads aren't ours. We've not accepted those as city streets. So this is just a really good example of, you know, how it's supposed to work in theory, and it got derailed, and now we're dealing with the consequences. So.
And I would also
You know what?
say, if this were to happen again and someone were to file bankruptcy as a developer, this exact same scenario can happen again. We
call
can
in
do
the bond.
everything right, call in the bond, do everything we're supposed to do. Chances are, by the time we even find out they're in bankruptcy, the bonding company's already dropped them. Like, I mean, this could totally happen again.
Not on Interstate 75.
But yeah.
If,
Jim, my
John,
understanding-
if you
Now,
would,
where's Patton Street?
read what the dedication says.
This one doesn't show Patton, but it's this curve right here. Comes to the top of the hill. This is the first lot in what's labeled Oakland View Estates Phase 3. This would be Mr. West's lot. As you top the hill, that first lot right there is part of this Phase 3 development. This right here is showing what's on Oakland Road, and as you come up Patton, that would have been part of an earlier phase.
And that little strip that's in front of those homes on Oakland Road, is that a driveway or is that a street?
It's not a street. It's a drive. It's a shared drive. I'm sure.
So we're not agreeing to take over that, okay.
Well, the road or the streets in question that you guys are considering this resolution for is, as you top the hill there at Patton, actually probably from the start of it, but it's coming down, it goes down into a little cul-de-sac here. The name of this has even changed. This, I think, Basswood and Oakland View Court, Hawthorne, Aspen, those all may be the same. It seemed like I identified one that the name was changed. But anyway, it's this section of streets right here. Now, it's not all of the rest of this for future development. It's this, 12.5 acres.
If you would read what the dedication says.
The dedication of the streets and drainage system. I hereby certify that the streets and drainage facilities shown on this plat have been installed in an acceptable manner in accordance to required specifications, or that an adequate performance bond has been posted. A maintenance bond in the amount of $26,250, in parentheses 40% of the value of all road and drainage improvements installed, close parentheses, has been figured to cover all the necessary repairs for the next 18 months after construction. So, you know, that, again, that amount would have been to complete or maintain, I guess, the drainage system and the roads if they hadn't, you know, put that top coat on. So I'm assuming at the time that was the quote or the bid, you know, 40% of the bid to cover that.
Who signed that?
That one, oh Lord, if I can make it out, for the streets, at the time, I can't even make it out. It starts with a D.
That's fine.
It's from 2007, I can tell you that. I
see.
mean, it's just a bunch of scribble.
Donald Trump.
Yeah, that's right. But I mean, it's from 2007. Bettis was, you know, over SUV.
Yeah.
There, it's in 911. But I can't make out that name.
what's important to me is not the second half with all of the amounts, but the first half that certifies that it's been completed and as the successor developer,
But that,
Delane is bound to complete them. Or he could post the bond. Of course, the bond amount would
You're
have
worried if we
changed.
put this lien against his properties, that he's gonna come back and say that it's an illegal lien because he never deeded the roads over to us. Is that what you're worried about?
I just want, how do we make them city streets? Cause I don't have any problem going and paving,
Yeah.
but I don't wanna pave his private road.
Right. Yeah.
So you're saying you want to,
And I don't care to go pave them and say, hey, if you don't wanna be city streets, that's fine, but he still can't issue any building permits because they're not on city street. So you sit on your lots, we'll let these people drive on their road, everybody's happy.
And we treat them like city streets at that point. I mean, we do now, but.
Yeah.
Would
Well,
the
if
homeowners be okay with that?
there's a common law dedication too. If we take on the maintenance of them and treat them as if they're city streets, there's going to be a common law dedication, and they'll end up being ours anyway.
The consensus of the homeowners is the safety of us getting in and out of the neighborhood in the winter.
He's not thinking on.
While we yes all know that we purchased property on a big gigantic hill, it was with the expectation that the city was going to help us get in and out of the hill with treatment and plowing and so on and so on, which took place while Mike Wilson. I've lived there since Mike Wilson lived there. I've lived there. I bought my home from Mike Wilson.
Uh-huh.
Mike Wilson told us that the city was in agreement to continue to maintain those, and then once he got the number of houses that were necessary, then he would move forward. However, I want to say it was in 2010, he went bankrupt. Now, I'm happy to see if I can contact him because he lives in Maryville, and I'm happy to bring him in and see if he's willing to speak to you guys. I can't guarantee that that will ever happen, but I can say that the neighborhood as a whole, out of everyone in that neighborhood, I can easily say in the first storm where we were literally landlocked for a week because of ice and snow, there were individuals who lost wages, couldn't get food, there was an injury in the neighborhood because they couldn't get out, and we're fearful that God forbid there be a fire or something, y'all can't get in. So that's the neighborhood's biggest concern. So if
Yeah.
that's the only, we just came to you as homeowners to say, what can we do with the city to get this?
Need help. I got you.
So, in summary, we move forward with this petition. We pave the streets. We ask the developer if he wants to give the streets to the city. If he says no, we've not taken them, the developer can't get a building permit, but yet the residents have a paved street. Is that a win-win-win? What am I missing?
Is that doable? We're saying that that's doable?
you think
Practically
it's doable
speaking,
without even
yes.
talking to him. You think that we're allowed
But,
to do it.
Did you say based on principle? I know what you say about that.
I think where it
I
would
didn't-
cause,
Yeah.
our folks then a problem
Yeah.
is if they're not city streets, they're gonna know why we spend $160,000 of tax money
I
to
think-
pave somebody.
But
I
we
think
have
that's
this
a good
assessment.
line to put in the resolution, is, even though these are not yet adopted as city streets, due to the time that has lapsed and the burden that is placed on city property taxpayers, we are choosing to move forward with paving these streets with the intention of adopting them as city streets. Does that help at all if we add that kind of wording into the resolution? Do you think?
I've got a bunch of whereases that
And I
basically
don't want any
that,
other
bas-
developer
that
to be able to say,
basically
well, I'm not
say
gonna pave
that.
the roads, you guys go pay them for me. We don't want that to happen
But
again.
but what
How do you think, this has been over a decade. This is a long time.
2007.
Nobody's been able to issue building permits. I mean, that should factor into it. This is why we're making this extreme decision, is because there's not been a solution in 15 years on this property, so let's come up with something.
I think one of the answers to why is this become city streets is because that's what this is the Residential Infrastructure Act. That's what the whole thing is, to fund municipal infrastructure. And that's what the act is authorizing us to do. And that's probably the fundamental reason that it's okay. I think it's okay for a lot of these other reasons as well. And if he wants us to pay him for his streets because we took him without paying him, then he can pay us for paving his streets.
That could be your counter suit.
So,
and I don't know that he would, because as somebody said, it's opening up for him to be able to now use those
Yes.
lots.
It helps him
Right.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
He may not be happy that we're adding $10,000 to the cost of his lot, but such is life.
yeah,
And he doesn't know it till he sells the lot.
right. Okay, I'll,
That's exactly
Well,
right.
I will move, we put it on the December 1 agenda for consideration of the petition or the resolution. Now that
And I
there's been a
second it
petition
in
filed.
workshop.
and I will have a draft of a resolution to all of you
I'm having way too much fun
individually, since you obviously won't get them together to deliberate on. I'll just send them to you individually, and y'all get me whatever individual comments you have, and I'll have that to you next week,
John,
maybe sooner.
I did find in here where it says about the streets, the process for the adoption of the streets. It does say, approval of the final plat by the planning commission shall not constitute public acceptance of any street or other way. The formal request must be made by the, it says county, then made to the county commission, it's supposed to be city council, by the developer. So a formal request, they request us adopt them, and then you guys either adopt them or don't.
But because we're using the Residential Infrastructure Act, it's a whole different process.
Right,
So
yeah.
Yeah. And you,
we
talk,
hope.
and you, if
We
we
better.
talk
Would you
about
feel
this.
better if we tried to get MTS to talk us through it, or I don't know that anybody else has used
because
this
they
yet, so I
won't
don't know there's
defend us
any.
if, you know, we'll just have to do what we think we need to do for these people.
We need to do what's
And
right.
let him
Yeah.
do what he thinks he wants to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, a lawsuit would add a lot more than $10,000 a lot.
And see if he can safely get out.
The other thing we think, and somebody might have mentioned this while I was digging through here and I wasn't listening, that if we were to adopt them in their current state, you know, so that things could move forward. And I don't know that whatever that resolution is, could put a time frame on when those improvements are made. Basically adding that 2-inch top coat and, you know, but I guess, Jim, what you're saying is, we don't want to adopt them and improve them and him sue us for improving his property, but if he had some sort of agreement to where or requests that we take those streets, if the developer says, would you all adopt these streets and you all agree to adopt them, then they become the city streets, even though they haven't been approved yet. Then that moves the development along. They can get building permits, and we can set timeframes for when you guys can budget for that, you know. If they become city streets and the safety of it, like if it's too cold right now to put the asphalt on, then, okay, when it warms up in the spring, we're gonna top coat it. But again, yeah, that's right, you can maintain it, and I understand that gets into snow and icy weather. I'm just thinking if it's too cold.
I think we're safe in maintaining the streets as long as we pass this resolution in December, even if we haven't paved them yet, we're safe in treating them like city streets, because it's our intention to make them city streets.
What's the condition of the base up there?
It's not bad.
It's not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not the top coat. It's not nice and smooth.
Yeah.
It's not bumpy. There's not big potholes and chug holes, but there is a pretty good lip on those, you know, those manhole covers. I mean,
That's why they can't scrape it.
Yeah,
We solve it every time.
Right.
We're not capable
no.
of scraping it.
Well,
Because
you'll
if
take
you try to-
manhole right
well, if you
straight
try to
off.
plow with those manholes, what
Yeah.
you wanna do is leave a pile of snow in the middle of the road where you gotta lift the plow.
Yeah.
Makes it more dangerous.
Yep.
You
We
also
throw
need
salt on
to,
it, we plow down the hill.
if you
but
go
we
to
can't
pave
plow
it,
up in the neighborhood.
let Eric know, because they may have to. Because if they
Raise the
only did
manhole
their
covers,
lip
yeah.
for 1 inch, and now you're gonna do 2, you're gonna have manholes like they are down.
I think
Highway 11.
looking at them, Jim,
Are they high
they're
enough?
close to 2 inches. Yeah.
They're pretty
Just
high.
make sure.
They are, I made it.
You got my measuring tape
Depending
out,
on
but
the
I know I
side of the
don't
hill,
want to drive
the
over.
side, they're pretty close to 2 inches.
I think it can be feathered up with the asphalt.
Yeah.
Because that's what happened down 11. When they paved 11 last time, they told Eric 1.5 inches. So then they put 2, so now all the manholes are 1/2 inch.
Again,
Yeah.
well, we dealt with that a little bit on, the willow tree. Those have been set years ago. Now they're trying to make all that match up, and they're having to feather it with proper depth.
So, motion's made.
Okay, let's go.
Anybody
Now,
second?
but moving forward, come on now, Jessica.
I seconded it in a workshop.
You did.
In a workshop. I gave it a workshop second.
Yeah.
Okay.
Quarterly report. The charter requires we give a quarterly report. Here's your, we're not gonna vote on it because it was in the workshop, but we'll get it on the December 1st agenda. So, December 1st agenda. Tell your friends in Oakland View Estates. Quarterly report. This is in your packet. Obviously, we're a little upside down right now. We're spending more because we pay a lot of our insurance policies and stuff up front in this first quarter. That this does not really show any property tax revenue coming in. We have like one payment in September, but for the most part, this is through September 30th, so we don't have any property tax. It's coming in well. Today we did a $290,000 drawer deposit, so most of that was property tax, a little bit of sales tax. So, I'm not concerned. I'm going to point out local option sales tax is 16%. That's only 2 months of local option sales tax, but it is trending just a little bit higher than where we were last year at the same time. Same thing for state sales tax. It's trending just a little bit higher than where we were last year this time. So again, local option and state shared sales tax are still increasing over where they were last year this time. Down in the other funds, you can see state street aids, balance, drug fund, tourism, sanitation. I'll point out again, sanitation we have to do something about. We're either going to have to raise the fee or we're going to have to start supplementing out of general fund because now it costs more than what we have in the sanitation fund to operate the garbage contract. So that is something we're going to have to deal with. I think the fee's $11.50.
Do you need to maintain a?
The state wants us to keep at least a 10% fund balance in any enterprise fund that's fee-based. So if we fall below that 10%, they get nervous. They did pass our budget this year with it falling slightly below the 10% number. So
How much does that need?
Probably about $35,000 a year, $38,000 somewhere in there. Yeah. There's your balances. That again is in your packet too. It tells you where all of our cash is. And what we're earning on things. The money market's 4.27, the LGIP account's 4.2, so we're getting still good money off interest on those. There are 340 cities in Tennessee and 95 counties, and about 107 of us had a clean audit this year, so I just wanted to show you that Sweetwater was one of the cities listed on the clean audit report. This went out in the comptroller's newsletter this week. Not that yet. We'll leave that up there. Okay, the pool project, just wanted to briefly tell you mechanical drawings are on their way or here, just recently received this week.
We got them today.
Yay. So, go ahead.
We got them today. I'm going to review them against our pool project, and our intent is to get them to East Tennessee Development District within the week. And depending on their turnaround, shooting to have bid documents in 2 weeks, and that's contingent upon
the state has to approve those mechanical drawings, which that's what we just approved in our last workshop, was that we would go ahead and do the mechanical drawings. The state will approve those, and then we can go to bid.
I'm so sorry.
No, keep going.
What that does is it releases us to do the pool resurfacing and the equipment and the demo required. So everything will be in below the required concrete.
Meaning we can open the pool.
Yes.
And then we probably won't have the bathhouses or the concession stands done, but we'll figure that out, like with a temporary structure or something. On the CDBG side of that grant, we're still in the environmental. They are making progress on it. We talked to them. Sam and I had a meeting with them last week. We think in a couple of weeks the environmental will be done on the CDBG side of that. So that CDBG grant will be ready to bid as soon as that environmental is done and approved.
So
they are willing to change the scope, so we do
waiting
know
on
we
the
can use them.
environmental before we can do the bathhouse and stuff
Yes.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and anything outside the pool area, which was like soccer nets and resurfacing the track and possibly resurfacing basketball, everything we kind of threw in that scope to make sure we could spend that amount of money on there.
Cameras.
There is a tax sale scheduled for November 20th. Today, John Cleveland received the, what is that term? It wasn't the
Well,
order.
The notice of sale
Notice of sale.
was filed
That's in your packets.
Friday, I guess, Thursday or Friday. It's going to be published in the newspaper for the first time on Wednesday.
So-
And the sale is
November 20th.
November
So
the 20th in the Chancery Courtroom in Madisonville.
I have emailed every interested developer. I have made sure to tell them that they need to base what they're willing to bid on an R1 zoning, because that's what it is now, and we feel like we're going to be pretty protective of that. I've received some requests back, and I know John's talked to one of them about if we would be willing to do a TND zoning, which kind of is like a mixed use where they have some residential and maybe a little commercial and maybe a tennis court, and it's what Willow Creek is. I said I think that's preferred to an R2 or an R3 zoning, but the only thing I can tell you for sure is that you can do R1. So that's what I've said to every developer, because I don't want them going in and bidding $10 million on this property thinking they can fit 500 houses on there, and then us ending up in the exact same position that we're in now with Swan. We want whoever gets this property, whether it's us or someone else, for it to be successful at it. So we do have multiple developers that are calling and asking questions, and we're trying to give them all same equal information about that. So November 20th, happy Thanksgiving. 150th candlelight service, our last meeting is tomorrow at 3:30. We're going to plan that 150th candlelight. We'll also be doing downtown memorials for Joey Hunt, and several of the people that fought with him and served with him are planning on coming to that candlelight. So I would really, 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 really like for all of the commissioners to show up to that closing candlelight service. It'll probably be cold, hopefully not as cold as the January one. It's December 8th. So over the next 41 days, we have 11 events outside of city regular normal working hours, starting with Halloween on Friday and ending with the candlelight service on December 8th. So we have events
6
nonstop between now and December 8th at 6 o'clock. Yeah. TCMA conference, I attended last week, and I'm 2 classes away from being done with my certified public administrator class. I'm doing a capstone project on our short film that we did last year as a tourism tool. We have to pick a project and talk it through and teach other cities how to do it. So my capstone project will be presented in December and January to different people around the state. It's all about that short film and how we used it. Today at Sweetwater High School, I met with 4 classes, and Amelia, the film's producer, came with me, and we judged a poster contest. The kids were all tasked with Anderson was in there, to do a poster design for the film. And so we awarded first, second, and third prize on that. That was a cool tie-in for that. We've also had several departments go to training in the last month. Haley and Josh attended the Rural Tourism Conference in Alabama. Eddie went to the Tennessee Recreation and Parks Association Conference. Sounds like that was a really good conference for him. We've already talked through the industrial development, and that's all I have.
Okay, moving forward on our November agenda, we will have minutes and distributions as always. We have a public hearing and final reading on 3 ordinances. 1057 on the floodplain, 1058 for zoning exceptions on the M1 zoning at the interstate area to allow for higher heights, and 1059 to add zoning for M1 on the industrial property at the interstate. We also have the annexation for the property off Pleasant Grove Road, correct? I'd like to ask our department heads to give a brief.
Sorry, I forgot 2 things. Let me tell y'all real quick. We did get a TDOT signalization grant awarded today. So this is the last intersection that's not on a loop or a camera. We finally, after 3 years of applying, got that grant. They pay it directly, but I imagine it's somewhere in the $500,000 range that the value of this grant is. But they will signalize the North Street intersection now, so you don't have to sit there for wherever waiting. So that's good news. Also, the police and fire salary supplements. I look back in last year's minutes. I think we made a motion last year that we would not come to the board and request permission. So it's automatically going to be paid early, which is in November when we pay the Christmas bonus. And I just wanted to remind you all that we were doing that they'll be getting those salary supplements, which we are reimbursed by the state, but not till later in the year. Okay, now I'm really done.
Okay, so department heads.
I'm winning right now, so mine's gonna be real short.
Oh,
Do it,
no.
baby.
We finished up our school programs last week. And somewhat done with the hydrants, and now we're starting on equipment maintenance, all the routine stuff we have there. Other than that, everybody's trying to go fast, 'cause I'm winning.
We,
Quicker.
like I say, we're doing our Red River Week this week in all the schools. We appreciate schools.
Thank you for the donation, by the way.
Give opportunity to talk to them and participate with kids that way. We finished up our, like she just mentioned about the in-service stuff, we finished up our in-service. We had the luxury, or I should say luxury, convenience of using the virtual academy where the guys can do it, at their pace on the computer, and it's all post-approved. And Kevin and I get to pick the topics that we look at. And we put a special emphasis this year on mental wellness. And we took normally we required just for 2 hours at the state, but we did 4, and some of the guys even went and did 8 on it, because it not only deals with the mental wellness of dealing with folks. We all know about a situation that happened, that affects, dealing with people that have a mental wellness issue, but it also helps, the officers, stuff like it, dealing with stress and stuff like that.
And folks, that is a big thing right now, police and fire.
Yeah, they do.
Things are much different nowadays, people are much different. It's a very sort of tough topic, it's a tough topic.
Yeah, these virtual academy just got with me, and we'd already had a demo of it. We ended up signing up for it a couple of years. One thing that makes it convenient is you get the best of the best instructors. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes, like I say this, and Commissioner Stubbs knows it, we've got guys that are certified to teach everybody, but man, sometimes you just don't listen to your own peers as well as you do somebody else. Even if it's a video or something like that. So we appreciate that, and we're continuing to move on, and looking forward to Halloween.
Hey, is it on the 31st?
Yeah. When's Halloween?
I'll be brief too.
Everybody will.
Everything's going well. Planning is real busy. A lot of stuff going on, as you can see by tonight's meeting. But just general stuff going on. We got about 16 open permits in Willow Creek right now. Just finished up 4 units on River Park Town homes. Those are going on the market. They'll start their next building when at least a couple of those sell. 7 lots off Edgewood. They'll be getting building permits soon. 4 lots off of Old 68. They'll be getting permitted soon. So a lot of building going on. And, again, whether you're for that or against that, at the end of the day, it helps our property tax revenue. So, again, I'm right there in the middle of all that too. There's pros and cons. Campground, we met with the owner of the campground this morning, Rendezvous Campground. He came in, met with me, Chief Byron and I, and Jessica, and Drew Isbell from the utility board to address some of the concerns that, from citizens and from internal, folks here as well. We're on the same page now. So all of those campers will be off-site, before Thanksgiving. They're basically, the renters were turning that into, trying to turn that into, residences. And it's not permitted, it's not zoned for that, that's not the agreement, that's not the site plan. So we're on the same page now, and we're pushing to get him to finish that project. So I think this will help him get there quicker than just continuing to rent it out as residences. So that was a good meeting. He received everything well, and everybody's clear now on what's required. Industrial development, obviously, Tom was here. We'll talk about that I-75 Commerce Park. That's the biggest one. Been out there in touch with Terrasport Trailers. A lot of dirt's been moved. No permits were issued. Nothing, no site plans. Talked to the owner there. We're on the same page now. So that's pretty much everything's going on in my world. I'll leave the other phone call I had today, I'll let Jessica explain that one for the potential property that would like to locate off the I-75 corridor.
You know what, let's pass on that. Yes.
So, no.
Not in a good way.
No.
Okay, moving forward. Eddie? Good.
Everything's going good. We got one of our soccer fields completed with irrigation, up running, and got it overseeded, waiting for soccer to be overseeded and finished.
Okay.
So everything's wide open right now.
Good deal. David?
We're coming out of mowing season, getting in the leaf season, and keeping the streets swept, picking stuff up, brush demolition. Got a couple of little projects going on around the shop. Other than that, that's about it.
Well, I will offer my street sweeping services if needed.
Come on.
Okay. So, thank you. Tanya, do you have anything, honey?
Doing training the same as them. I'm doing trustee workshop at Art Circle Public Library in Crossville. Attended the Friends of the Library Conference in Sevierville. And looking forward to Friday night, Halloween trick-or-treating.
Trick or treating, and that's next. We have the Mays Avenue will be closed from 5 to 8. That we will have all of our. It will be downtown. So Halloween, you know, that is our bag, you know, for Sweetwater. Veterans Day Parade is November 8th. That is at lunch. I think they're starting to line up for that at maybe at Walmart at 11 o'clock. So I encourage everyone to please come out to that to honor our veterans. Tickets for the musical, the Main Street musical, that you should have 2 tickets at your stations, and the dates are on there. There's 5 performances, so if you don't make an excuse that you don't have time to go, because they're everywhere. I looked at that, I was like, oh boy. Small Town Christmas, again, a Sweetwater favorite is November 29th. Does that start at 5? 5 to 8. And do we want a workshop on November 24th? That is Thanksgiving week. And I'll let you all decide, or we can cancel it unless there is business we need to review, because we're going to review the other one on December 1st.
It's up to you all. Most years we don't have a workshop in November and December. We can say we're not gonna have it, and if something comes up that's urgent, we can call it.
That's what we'll do.
I mean, we're not gonna publish
Play it by
it's
ear.
canceled. Yes, Commissioner Stutz?
2 quick things. Number one, at some point we had inquired of the state whether they would include the lighting on exit 62. Did they ever reply to that?
I've never gotten a clear answer on that, and I'm not exactly sure who to follow back up with, but we can find out.
Okay. Number 2, could we train somebody to make the clock downtown work?
No. Let me tell you something. David fixed it last time. They sent a new part and David fixed it. They were supposed to come, I bet we called a year ago, and they were supposed to come and look at it again, but they have not yet, so.
The motor won't hold that.
Weather?
No, the clock motors keep going bad.
Is that the one at the depot?
So it's not really it's a part that we have to order from them, and we can't.
When the power goes off.
But we can follow up with that
5
again.
minutes, and the clock's off for 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
You know, goes off for 30 minutes, it's off 30 minutes. You gotta get in there, and my arm's too big.
Sure. Sure.
So this little flashing light?
All right.
Well, it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Okay. Take it down.
Okay, anybody
Make it
else?
at 5 o'clock.
All
It's supposed to be
hearts
5
and-
o'clock somewhere.
All hearts and minds are clear. Let's adjourn.
Prerequisite.